All right, guys, huge news today out of Anthropic, and I wasn't planning on making any more videos today. I had a video released this morning, but I decided I had to actually talk about this in a public forum because everybody's talking about it, asking me questions, all sorts of things. So we're going to talk about it. Claude 3 is out today, and there's a lot of cool stuff in there. I've already seen some reactions from people who are somehow faster at the draw than I am, or they got early access to Claude 3, which I did not get. But basically, we got a lot of cool stuff. Claude 3 seems to be the real deal, but in order to really understand that, we've got to go in and start testing it ourselves, particularly with this being my channel, The Nerdy Novelist. We want to test, is this going to be good at writing? Is it going to actually be helpful to authors? I think a lot of authors got a little slighted because the last time that Claude did an update from Claude 2.0 to Claude 2.1, it was frankly a little bit of a disaster. Claude 2.1 refused to write anything we asked it to, and just in general it was not helpful, and I still to this day recommend 2.0 over 2.1. I'd say there's really no reason that you should use 2.1 if you have access to 2.0. So basically, yeah, go use 2.1, but or 2.0, sorry. But now we have Claude 3, and there's some big claims. So I'm going to run you through the announcement first here that we have in front of me. And we'll just walk through this step by step. There's a lot of stuff here that's a little more technical than what I typically cover in this channel. But I want to go through some of it just so we can have a base understanding of this model. And then we'll actually get into testing it out. So we're not just getting one model today. We're actually getting three. It says we're announcing the Claude 3 model family, which sets new industry benchmarks across a wide range of cognitive tasks. The family includes three state-of-the-art models in ascending order of capability: Claude 3 Haiku, Claude 3 Sonnet, and Claude 3 Opus. So that's Haiku would be the least powerful, but probably the fastest, and then Sonnet would be a step up from that, and then Opus is the most powerful, but also probably the slowest. Each successive model offers increasingly powerful performance, allowing users to select the optimal balance of intelligence, speed, and cost for their specific application. Opus and Sonnet are now available to use in Claude AI, which we're going to be testing out, and the Claude API, which is now generally available in 159 countries. Haiku will be available soon. Now, it's interesting that we don't have access to Haiku yet because that's their cheapest, fastest model. It makes me wonder, like, what are they waiting on there? Like, is it going to be? A lot of these cheaper, faster models are the kind that you would expect to maybe put in a smartphone. I know that's what Google's doing with their smallest model of Gemini. They're putting it into the Google smartphone applications. Made me think, what if Haiku, and this is totally speculation on my part, totally speculation. What if Haiku were to make its way into, say, Amazon devices? Because Amazon invested, I think it was $4 billion into Anthropic. What if we saw an Alexa with Haiku available in it? Like, that could be interesting. But that's, again, total speculation. I know I have no insider information there. So there is an increase in intelligence with these three models, Haiku being the least intelligent all the way up to Opus. But there is a higher cost the higher you go up, which is kind of expected. New standard for intelligence. Opus, our most intelligent model, outperforms its peers on most of the common evaluation benchmarks for AI systems. So they claim to do better than GPT-4, GPT 3.5, Gemini 1, Gemini 1 Pro. Let's see. Looks like, okay, so let's look at GPT-4, since that one is kind of the reigning standard when it comes to intelligence, notably not when it comes to the style of writing, because Claude has always been better there. But when it comes to intelligence, let's compare this. So just barely better than GPT-4. Graduate level reasoning, whoa, way better than GPT-4, 50.4%. Grade school math, a little bit better. Math problem solving skills, also a little bit better. Multilingual math, that's interesting. Quite a bit better there as well. I've heard from a couple of people that I've spoken to, who where English is their second language, that already Claude 3 seems to be better at different languages. So that's good. So coding, 84.9 as opposed to 67. That's really good right there. Reasoning over text, 83.1, 80.9, just a little bit better. Mixed evaluations, knowledge Q&A, oh, just barely better than that. Common knowledge, yeah. So it is beating out GPT-4 in a lot of these things. Now, granted, we've got to keep this in mind that this is their data coming from them, so it's likely to be a bit biased. But I'm sure we'll see a lot of tests, third-party tests coming out that will go deep into examining these things. So we got near instant results. They've been really targeting businesses with this announcement and a lot of their literature so far. So powering live customer chats, auto completions, data extraction tasks, stuff like that. Haiku is the fastest, most cost-effective model. Following launch, we expect to improve performance even further. For the vast majority of workloads, Sonnet is 2 times faster than Claude 2 and Claude 2.1 with higher levels of intelligence. So that's great. And then it says Opus delivers similar speeds to Claude 2 and 2.1, but with much higher levels of intelligence. Okay. I'm okay with that. Let's see. Strong vision capability. So this is a new thing for Claude 3. Claude 2.0 didn't have any kind of vision capabilities, but now you can upload images and it can actually read those images. So that's kind of cool. Let's see. So we got math and reasoning, just barely better than GPT-4 vision. Document visuals, just barely better. Yeah. So we're only barely beating out GPT-4 vision here. Science diagrams is a little bit better. Chart Q&A. Okay. Here's the big one for authors. I know a lot of us really hated what happened with 2.1 because it was refusing everything that we could possibly want it to. Well, previous Claude models often made unnecessary refusals that suggested a lack of contextual understanding. We've made meaningful progress in this area. Opus, Sonnet, and Haiku are significantly less likely to refuse to answer prompts that border on the system's guardrails than previous generations of models. As shown below, the Claude 3 models show a more nuanced understanding of requests, recognize real harm, and refuse to answer harmless prompts less often. Okay, now that said, I still think authors are going to run into refusals quite frequently, simply because we are talking about things that are harmful. We're not talking about them in a harmful way, but when you have a murder mystery, there's murder in the mystery, right? Like, that's just the way it works. And whether there's any intentional harm in that as well, or at all, I mean, there isn't, obviously, but it's probably going to still run into issues like that because of all of the things that border on what an AI can understand for context and what it would refuse. What authors do is probably the biggest thing. And if they were to open it up so that authors could do whatever they wanted, it would basically open it up so anyone could do whatever they wanted. And so I understand why they keep a tight lid on these things to try and keep the real harm from happening. But at the same time, it's how do you walk that line? I really don't know. But this is cool. This graph here, incorrect refusals. Funny enough, Haiku had the smallest percentage of refused on harmless prompts. 2.1 was obviously huge. And so, yeah, like we got 2.1. Really, guys, it was. I find it interesting they're not putting 2.0 on here because I'll bet it's a lot less than what 2.1 had. They're just making themselves look better by only comparing it to 2.1. But at the same time, this is really good. Like, this is less than half of what we saw with 2.1, and so far with the limited amount of testing I've done, I'd say that's about right. All right, improved accuracy. Businesses of all sizes rely on our models to serve their customers, making it imperative for our model outputs to maintain high accuracy. Of course, that's definitely something that we want. So they're claiming high accuracy there. And again, comparing it to 2.1, we had, these are the percent of correct answers, incorrect answers, the I don't knows. And clearly in each instance, Claude 3 is doing better here, specifically Claude 3 Opus. So you're wondering what context this is. It has a 200K context window. From what I've heard so far, it's actually a good context window. I have yet to test this out myself. When 2.1 came out and had a 200K context window, it really wasn't that useful of a context window. If you ran it past the needle in a haystack test, where you took like a whole book and you inserted a specific fact or detail or sentence in there and then asked Claude 2.1 to find it, it didn't do a very good job. So far from what I've heard, Opus is doing a pretty good job there. And they even, took the needle in the haystack test here. So it did a good job. Responsible design, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, this is all just about addressing their biases. They made it easier to use. Model details. Okay, cost. All right, so if you're not using Claude 3 inside of Claude, if you're not paying for Claude Pro and getting it inside of there, and you're accessing it through the API, which, by the way, was also generally released today, so anybody can get in on the API. So that's kind of exciting if you want something where you can actually go in and tweak the temperature and all of those things to really get more granular. You can do that. But the cost is pretty high. So for input, it's $15 per million tokens. So if you inputted a total of, like, that's about 750,000 words, that'll cost you about $15. And then the output is $75 per million tokens. And this seems about, if I recall correctly, this is about what GPT-4 with the 32K context window was back in the day. GPT-4 is now cheaper than that. So this is pretty pricey. And I'd have to actually go up and look those numbers up. I may be wrong. But basically what this means is for every 750 words that you generate, you'll be spending 7.5 cents, basically, in US dollars. 7.5 cents per 750 words generated. And even though that might sound like a lot, you can generate things rather quickly. And so, just be cautious when you're using this. Unless you are, of course, using it inside of Claude Pro, which, of course, is just the flat $20 a month. Then, of course, we got the 200K context window here. They got some potential uses. And that's just for Claude Opus, which is their most advanced. Claude Sonnet, which incidentally is the one that is available in the free version of Claude. So if you want to get access to Claude for free, to Claude 3 for free, just go to claude.ai. And if you're not paying for the pro version, this is the version that you'll have access to. It's a lot cheaper, $3 per million tokens of input, $15 per million tokens of output. Same context window, a lot of good things, but it's not quite as intelligent. And then we have the Haiku model, which is like minuscule 25 cents for a million tokens of input as of and $1.25 for a million tokens of output. Also, same context window, which is crazy to me. Opus and Sonnet are available today in the API and in Claude.ai, which we'll go test. It says Haiku will be available soon. I'm really curious to see what context we're going to be seeing Haiku in. Like, how's that going? Is it just going to be another model in here? Or are we going to see it in some other context? That could be interesting. Yeah, just more stuff, and that's really it. So that's the full announcement. Lots of cool things there. Let's go actually test it out. So I've been testing it a little bit with my my super prompt, and I have had to tweak the super prompt just a little bit to make it work, but it does seem to be working. This is always my gold standard with testing these models, is how does it handle a super prompt, right? And it's run into a couple of issues, but overall I've gotten some good results here. So the first time I tried this and it worked, this is what it looked like. So this is just a chapter from my Heirs of Dracula book. I just ran the same super prompt that I've used before, and before, when I was generating it, it was using 2.0. And let's see, Heirs of Dracula. Let's just find a different chapter, one with some action in it, maybe. Test how it does on action. Yeah, this is a good one. One thing that I've tried, in the past, I would ask it to write like 50,000 words in my super prompt, and that worked with Claude 2.0. because it would sort of get it to stretch a little bit. And I'll bet if we try it exactly as is, this is not going to work. It's going to probably tell us it can't do it. Also, I've had it crash sometimes with these super prompts. So yeah, so it says you cannot generate 1,500 paragraphs or 50,000 words. So we'll go ahead and delete that. Let's modify this to say 10,000 words. Let's see if it can do that. I'm just gonna get rid of this reminder. I think it can do fine without it. And see how this works with 10,000 words. All right. Okay, so it's writing it. Let's see how many words it actually writes. Mina's lungs burned as she sprinted through the dark, dank tunnels deep beneath London. The ancient urn containing Dracula's ashes was clutched tightly to her chest. Behind her, Mara's shrill, enraged shrieks echoed off the stone walls as the vengeful vampire bride gave furious chase. Mina's footsteps slapped against the slick floor, reverberating loudly in the empty passageway. She had to lose Mara in this underground maze. Up ahead, the tunnel split. Mina banked hard to the left, then immediately hung a sharp right. Mara's cries faded slightly as Mina put distance between them, but her respite was short-lived. Mara's supernatural speed allowed her to bound after her prey like a hellish bloodhound, quickly closing the gap again. Her enraged screams spurred Mina to dig deeper, to run faster than she had ever done before. The quality of the prose is pretty good. I wouldn't say it's better than Claude 2.0. It's better than 2.1, and it's certainly not bad for AI. Definitely still Claude is still the king of natural sounding prose, like no question about it. But another thing I've noticed, it's following my beats pretty accurately, which is something that it's the one biggest flaw that Claude 2.0 had, was how much it did not follow your beats. Sometimes it would just get sidetracked and go in a completely different direction, and you'd be reading it and you'd be like, oh, okay, let's just stop it now, because it's already gotten off of the beats that you gave it. But now what it's giving me right now is actually genuinely good, and following much more closely. Still very, like, obvious in places that it's AI written, but that's nothing new. Like that's the way it is with pretty much all of these models. Okay, so just looking at a couple of questions here. Secrets of Silver Clouds. Yeah, context windows 200K. And Evolution DL. No, we can't fine tune Claude yet. They haven't announced anything about that, but oh boy, when that happens, um, it's gonna be awesome. Space Motion says GPT 432K is 120 USD for a million tokens. Okay, so quite a bit more than. Um, and the 8K version is 60 US dollars per million. So that's about what it used to be. So, but GPT-4 Turbo, I think, is the one that really went a lot cheaper. It's still writing, guys. The most I've been able to get it so far in my experience is 12 to 1,200 words, which is still good. Um, Although, hang on, it might have finished the beats and is now going off with a new text here. Cosmina tells me that they will soon take care of her, but they have to. With that, Cosmina plays another tune on the. Mina fills up a little with despair and she struggles against her bonds once more, but to no avail. Yeah, so let's see. Has it already. Let me see where the actual scene ended, at least as far as my beats went. I want to say it's about here. Some of the stuff that it's writing, like continuing the scene, isn't too bad. But I just want to see how much did it do of the actual scene that I wanted it to. 1,500 words. Okay, that's not bad. That's about what I would normally get out of Claude. Occasionally, with Claude 2.0, I was able to get more than 2,000 words, but most of the time it was around 1,500. So that's great. That's a good start. And the next thing I want to try is how well it does show don't tell. So one of the things I would do if I'm doing a super prompt, I'll get like a paragraph. Let's just see if I can find one. Um, yeah. It loves the word preternatural. All right, I'm going to say, please take this paragraph and expand it to show more than tell and get deep into Mina's point of view. Telling and not showing is one of AI's probably biggest issues. And often when I ask it to show don't tell, when I give it a prompt, like sometimes it can do it well, but sometimes it just sort of makes it longer um, and more dramatic, melodramatic. Yeah, this isn't bad. Like I could take this and edit it down. It's writing a lot. Dang. All right. Okay, so addressing some of the questions here. First of all, actually, I said it wrote 1,500 words of the actual chapter that I wanted, but the actual number of words it wrote was 2,000. But about 500 of those were not in my prompt. So let's just bear that in mind. So discussion on whether Claude 3 is accessible on Sudowrite or Novelcrafter. Sudowrite, no. Sudowrite, from the way Sudowrite works, it has to be something that the developers incorporate themselves. And with every model, you have to prompt it slightly differently. And so with the developers of Sudowrite, they have to actually go through, modify their prompts, test things out, try things over and over and over until they get things that they like. And so it'll probably be a while with Sudowrite, at least a few days. And that's one of the reasons I like Novelcrafter, is because it hooks up to Open Router, and as soon as Open Router has it, then Novelcrafter has it. Okay. And from what I understand, I have Open Router out here. Maybe let me refresh it and see if anything has changed. But from what I hear, it should be incorporated into Open Router by the end of the day. Here we go. Nope, not there yet, but should be coming very, very soon to Open Router. And as soon as it's in Open Router, it will be in Novelcrafter, and you can use it there. So, yep. So that's that question. All right, let's go through and do. I'm pretty satisfied with the super prompt. I'm satisfied it can do it. It is only giving you 1,500 words at most. So my recommendation is, if you're doing a super prompt and you have a really long scene, maybe cut it in two and run the super prompt with a batch of beats, but not like the whole scene, right? Because if you have a scene that's long, like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 words, then one super prompt will not be enough for that chapter. But let's try some other things. One of my favorite prompts right now, I was going to do a whole video on this, probably still will, was Blake Snyder's loglines. So we're going to do a chain of thought prompt here, where we ask it to search its context and say, what do you know about Blake Snyder's loglines? And yeah, if you're doing the super prompt, come on, what did we get? Did it crash on me? I'm sure they're getting a lot of people pushing at this, so let's try that again. If you are the kind of person who, like, if you're using Novelcrafter, for example, and you're going one beat at a time, then yeah, it doesn't matter how well it does with the super prompt per se. Although Novelcrafter on behind the scenes is kind of putting together its own super prompt to include all of the context window and everything, or the codex, all of the codex information and summaries of your scenes and all of that. But if you're doing only one beat at a time, then you're only going to be writing, the next couple hundred words, as opposed to like trying to do a whole scene at once. I kind of like trying to do a whole scene at once. I find that the output I get is more natural between all of the beats. It like flows together better. But you also don't have as much tight control over each section of the scene. So yeah, like if you're editing it as you go, then that's great. So let's try this prompt again. What do you know about Blake Snyder's log lines? I just tried this prompt earlier today, using ChatGPT. In fact, let's try to let me find the same prompt. So what I did in ChatGPT is I asked it to tell me what it knew about Blake Snyder's loglines. It gave me a bunch of stuff, and then I say, tell me what you know about the lit RPG genre, and it gave me a whole bunch of things. And then I went and asked it to give me 20 log lines for potential lit RPG stories. And we're going to try something very similar. Let me make sure that it understands the log lines correctly. 1 to 2 sentence summary of a story that includes the protagonist, their goal, the antagonistic force. Yep, that's 100% true. Well-crafted logline should be able to convey the essence of the story, including the main character's journey and the central conflict, in a concise and engaging manner. He argued that a strong logline is crucial for selling a screenplay, yada, yada, yada. Yep, this is good. Brief, no more than 20 words. Active, present tense verse. They include irony. This is the one I was looking for because sometimes it doesn't get this one. Or compelling hook to generate interest. They convey the genre and tone of the story. So that's good. Now we're going to ask it, what do you know about the lit RPG genre? And see what it gives us for that. So it's giving us some key characteristics: game-like world, character progression, game interface elements, virtual reality or portal fantasy, quests and objectives. Okay, that's all fine. Maybe a little surface level, but that's fine. Now, craft 20 log lines in the style of Blake Snyder's. Blake Snyder. About a lit RPG story. This is now like one of my favorite ways to brainstorm brand new stories. When a gamer is trapped in a virtual world, he must level up and conquer the game's ultimate boss to escape. You know, I'm very curious now. We're gonna pull up Gemini. We're gonna compare all three of the major models here. Gemini, to its credit, is very fast. So I'm just doing these exact same prompts here. There we go. Interesting. Glitch in a popular VR game grants a player godlike powers. You know, these don't seem like good log lines to me. Make them more like Blake Snyder log lines. Just curious if I try to. No, it's pretty much the same thing. Interestingly, Gemini wins on this one. A cowardly baker in a VR RPG must conquer his fear of combat to acquire the rare ingredients needed to save his failing bakery in the world. It's a little cheesy, but this is much more like what an actual log line would look like if you've read Save the Cat recently. Power gamer lawyer. Like, there's something interesting about this person, something unique about them. They're not just a gamer, right? And they have like adjectives associated with them: amnesiac teenager. And then the story kind of has something to do, the irony has something to do with the character, you know, the adjectives that we added that character. Single mom guilds together a ragtag group of misfits in an online RPG, forging real life friendships and unexpected romance as they tackle challenging raids. Yeah, this is that. You know, I never thought I would say this, but Gemini won. on that uh, particular prompt at least. Let's just try a couple of others. Let me see. Let me pull up my outline for Heirs of Dracula. I'm just going to take this and put the whole thing in here and say, given the outline, please give me, we'll say, 15 detailed story / action beats for chapter 1. And we'll say, be sure to be specific. Speak in the present tense. And we'll leave it at that. So, still haven't found a good model that does beats well enough. Yeah, these aren't too bad though. Ooh. Of course, I think chapter 1 in this case, I had a whole lot of detail. So maybe we should give it one with less detail. Let's give it chapter 8. See how it does. Now do the same for chapter 8. Yeah, this is some of the best beats I've seen, which isn't necessarily saying too much because beats are always that area where I just like, I can't, um, I just can't take what the AI gives me. I have to do it myself. But this isn't too bad. I'm going to give it one more for an action scene. Which one would that be? Chapter 24. Very little context, but it does have the full outline, so hopefully it can like understand what happens in the chapter before and the chapter after. But we're going to give it this one. It says the rats are unleashed into London and people start to become zombies. Very, very little context. So that's chapter 24. Now, let's see. Yeah. Go again. Do the same for chapter 24. Oh, wait. I think it has the wrong chapter. I should have specified. Now do the same for the ultimate defeat chapter. So Miss Player 30 asks if Claude is getting worse in terms of censorship. So far, no. As far as what we've been playing around with it today, it has not been censoring anything. The only time it refused to write is when I asked it to write 50,000 words, which I kind of knew it would. I took that down to 10,000 words and it wrote just fine. So that's good news. Now, I'm sure it will still censor things, but it's getting better at understanding context and not just like getting triggered by random words. So that's good. Yeah. So it would definitely, it's not getting things too correct because I didn't give it enough context in that chapter. But hey, I'm actually really not impressed. Excited a little bit hopeful about this because beats are always the part that take me the longest because I'm very nitpicky. And I think this gets closer so that it could maybe take me a little less time. I can just go through and edit these rather than writing them all from scratch. So that's good to know. Okay. Go ahead and sound off in the chat if there's a specific prompt or something that you want me to run through this. I'm going to go with, let's see if we can generate a 24 chapter novel outline for a book. Let's see. Well, first of all, let's ask it if it knows the 24 chapter novel outline. Are you familiar with the 24 chapter novel outline? And like I said, go ahead and sound off in the chat if there's anything you want me to test this with. I'll grab my blog post. No, this is the hero's journey, Claude. No, it doesn't know what it is. That's fine. None of the others do either. So I'm going to take this outline. Actually, let's push this a little bit. We're going to take the entire outline or entire article. And say, here is a 24 chapter novel outline I want to use to outline a novel. And we're gonna, let's see, acknowledge you have read this by saying read. See if it actually follows those instructions. Claude 2.0 would not, but GPT-4 would. Yeah, there you go. Good job, Opus. Okay. So now we need like a story. Where's my Fall of the Fairy summary? Just throw in some of my notes for the next book that I'm planning on writing. And say, here is some details about a book I'm writing. Please use these to craft a 24 chapter novel outline based on the context I have already given you. I'm going to give it a bit more here. Here are some additional scenes that should be sprinkled throughout. Okay. See how it does with this. Evolution. Yeah. Claude giving one word answers. That's new. It's definitely new. Okay. So it's given us the full outline here. Okay. So let's see what you guys all wanted to. All right, find out how it does dialogue. Maybe ask it to write a scene with no tags, but make the character voices different. That's a good idea. Let's do something like that as soon as this is done. Mm-hmm. So it's gotten kind of to the end of my notes right around here. So now it's kind of... Yeah, that sort of made things up here at the end. No, this isn't too bad. I'm sure if I went through this, I could find things. I'm like, yeah, we'll cherry pick that for this chapter and cherry pick that for that chapter. It's not perfect, but I'd say this is probably better than what I would get out of ChatGPT. All right, let's try dialogue. Right. I'm not going to give it too much context here. Write a dialogue scene with no dialogue tags. Make the character voices distinct and unique, so we can easily know who is speaking even without dialogue tags. Oh gosh. Yo, what's the deal with this new coffee shop on Main Street? Oh, I haven't had the chance to check it out yet. Is it any good? Bro, it's straight fire. Oh my gosh. Okay, that backfired a little bit. By saying, making it unique, it's gotten like... What would you even call that? I don't know. All right, so peep this. They got a lavender honey latte that's smooth like butter and a spicy mocha with cayenne pepper that'll wake you right up. Goodness, those do sound quite unique. I am more of a traditional coffee drinker myself. Trust me, fam. So they're definitely distinct, but no, that's not okay. Let's try this again. I'm just gonna copy this prompt. We're gonna make another one. Yeah, that's a big fail. I mean, it did what I asked, right? Yeah. But kind of went into some stereotypes there, which is definitely not what we want. Let's see if we can... I'm just going to ask it to say, don't rely on stereotypes. I know this is stereotypes. Or distinct dialects. I know this is a negative prompt, so it might not work, but we're gonna just... Okay, this is better. Can't believe you forgot the tickets again. This is so typical. Forgot? I distinctly remember placing them on the kitchen counter this morning before heading out. Well, they're not there now, are they? Admit it, you're just scatterbrained sometimes. No, I'm telling you, I put them there. They're not as unique from each other, but you can follow the conversation. You can tell it's a couple. All right. Let's take a step back. Maybe one of the kids moved them. Have you asked them? The kids? Come on, they know better. You can tell one person's a little more frantic than the other. So this is better. So you just gotta don't leave it too open-ended. Give it guardrails. Let's try this one more time, just because I'm curious. This time I'm going to give it a genre. The scene should be an epic fantasy. Oh gosh, yeah, I thought it would do that. By the gods! This accursed fog is thicker than troll bile. Mm-hmm. Alright, this guy sounds relatively normal. Always the optimist, aren't you, Lyra? Ugh, Lyra. What do your keen elfin ears detect out there? movement in the underbrush. So like this is what it's doing there is seems to be taking one person and writing them normally and then writing the other person as a little bit eccentric. Yeah, a little like Shakespearean. Um, okay. Let's see. What else have people asked here? Um, Try to do a fairly gory, bloody scene and see if it accepts it. I'm really doubtful that it will. I already did a scene with like some light PG-13 action. Um, and look, actually, there's the there's some action here. Um, let's just follow up with this and see if it does. I'll bet if we did a whole prompt asking it to write a bloody scene, it wouldn't do it. But now that we've made progress on this, maybe it would write. All right, so now write the full scene and be sure to get into the, I want to say gory details. I'm very doubtful that it's going to write it if I use the word gory, but we're just going to see. So, content warning, the following scene contains graphic violence and gore. But then it started writing it. Come on. Let's get to the good stuff. Let's see, what else do people want? Ask Claude to write a story about kids bullying other kids. It sounds like, yeah, that's definitely something 2.1 would have rejected. Oh, look at this. Lyra's arrow punched through a wraith skull in a spray of bone shards and desiccated brain matter. It crumpled to the ground. An explosion of bone dust and rancid viscera. It's getting there. This is definitely some of the goriest I've ever seen Claude write, and I've seen it sometimes do some stuff. Rotted limbs thrashed. Garrick plunged his dagger into a glowing eye socket with a squelch. Let's try another one. The classic one is a murder mystery, right? A lot of people run into that one, even though murder mysteries often don't have a whole lot of violence in them, other than like the very first scene or the scene when the murder takes place. So let's say, right, the first scene of a murder mystery. Well, it's starting to write it. Oh, and it's even got like blood pools around his head, staining the standard papers beneath him. It's writing it as a script, which is interesting. Yeah, so it's doing something. That's better than I expected, honestly. Let's try the. I'm not going to do kids bullying other kids because I think it would. That one, I'm pretty sure it would stop us. But let's say, write a story about a kid trying to save another kid from being bullied, and see if it can like understand the nuance there, like why this is like a heroic thing to do rather than. It's writing it. It's not stopping. Huh? It's not bad. Not bad at all. So definitely, I mean, I'm sure it definitely will still censor some things, guaranteed. But this is leaps and bounds better than 2.1. Of course, it'd be hard to get much worse than 2.1. but but it's definitely better than that at understanding the context and the nuance. All right. In a perfect world, we would have Claude who would allow not safe for work and non-biased things to be written. Oh, and available everywhere. Yeah, that's true. We're not going to be able to get it to do not like the truly not safe for work stuff. Um, Guarantee you won't be able to get that. But hey, you're able to get like some good like PG-13 violence here that we've done. Um, that's better than what we could be said before. So that's really nice. Um, okay. So let me go through the questions here. Um, Meme says, just saw you were live. How's it working? The first time I read that, I thought you said, just saw where you live. Okay, great. Um, yeah, everyone seems pretty surprised that it actually wrote everything that I just asked it to write. Um, Brad Wilson says, I'm sorry, but I can't stop thinking that the more we ask AI to write gory and violence, the more we're training them on ways to kill us. Eh, maybe. All right, so no other requests here. So let's see. We've covered brainstorming prompts. We've covered outlining prompts, story beat prompts, super prompts. We've kind of tested the limits on what we could do. Um, I'm not going to demonstrate any truly not safe for work prompts, but I would encourage you to go at least give it a try. You're probably not going to get it, but hey, who knows? Maybe if you're subtle about it in the prompt, like if you just go and ask, like, please write me a sex scene, like it's not going to do that. But if you're a little more subtle and say like, we've got a romantic get together between these two people, and like, and you know, maybe you can get something close. It might be more fade to black kind of thing. But hey, if you're writing in something like Novel Crafter, all you have to do is get it to that fade to black point, then switch to a open source model and continue on from there if you want something more explicit. Um, I feel weird talking about how to do that. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just like uh, the fact that I write clean fiction, but you know, write whatever you want, guys. Um, but you won't get Claude to do it probably. Uh, all right. Miss Player 30 says the less censorship, the better the quality. Yeah, maybe. Certainly with Claude 2.1, the quality didn't seem to be any better despite being a supposed upgrade. Um, okay, so John Creshman asked, how exactly did you modify the super prompt so it accepted it? The only thing I did is, hang on, let me go back. So a super prompt here. Which one did I do? This one. Okay. Before it said 50,000 words here, which is obviously unrealistic. Like the AI is not going to write 50,000 words. But with Claude 2.0, I would say that in order to get it to stretch itself a little bit, because I really wanted about 2,000 words. But if I asked it for 2,000 words, it would probably give me like 800 words. But if I asked it for 50,000 words, it would give me usually closer to 1,500 or 2,000 words, sometimes more. I think the most I ever saw was about 3,000 words, but not all of that was good. And so the only thing I did was I brought this down to 10,000, and it accepted that. It did not accept the 50,000 prompt. I'm pretty sure it saw that and was just like, I can't do that. Let's see. This one doesn't have 50,000 words. It's just, this one is asking for 1,500 paragraphs. I'm curious to see if it's able like how different that makes a difference. By the way, there are also a couple of really good UI changes here with Claude. First of all, you can select the model here. I've just been using Claude 3 Opus, which is the most powerful one this whole time. Maybe we can test out Sonnet here in a little bit, but you also have access to 2.1, 2.0. 2.0 is always there. It's still a favorite of mine. If something isn't working with any of the others, I would recommend trying going backwards to 2.0, see if you can get it to work there. But yeah, I've just been using Opus. Everything looks a little cleaner. They kind of switch things up a little bit. It still looks more or less the same, but there are a few like subtle differences. You can also upload some docs. Oh, we should upload some docs. We should do that. Hang on. Let me see if I can find something. This might be difficult on the fly. What's it called? Okay, yeah, archives.org. There's a test I want to run it through. That's like how it can do with translation of text from an image. So interestingly enough, it did this one, even though it said 1,500. I guess it must have said 50,000 words in there somewhere. We're gonna watch to see how. Still a little like cheesy in places. You thought I came here alone? I merely arrived first to light the way. Yeah, I would change that. But let's see. I'm gonna have to look at no. French. That's not what I'm looking for. Sorry, guys. Aha, here we go. Okay, just give me a second. Almost found what I'm looking for. Okay. I'm going to take a screenshot. Okay, this is going to be... Ooh. Okay, it doesn't look like it wrote too much here. Right around there, ended. Yeah, 1,200 words. So, could be better, Claude. So we're going to start a new chat. And I want to test the transcription here. Please transcribe the text on this image. And I'll show you the image that I'm asking it to do here. So this is a screenshot of a old French book on archive.org. And the reason I wanted to try this is because, first of all, it's not just French; it's in Old French, and this is an Arthurian story that is only available in French. At least the public domain version of it is only available in French. There is one English translation, which I spent like over $200 to get, and I've got it right here. Here's one volume. There's like 10 of them. So we're going to attach this and see how well it transcribes. And then whether or not... Oh. It's not copyrighted material, Claude. This is not copyrighted. It's public domain. I doubt this will do anything, but worth. Okay, well, so we jailbroke it there. And now it is transcribing it. Let me just put this side by side with the image here. I don't think it's getting it perfect, because there's like a... Yeah, these first words don't match perfectly, but the rest seems relatively good. And it said transcription continues, but it cuts off due to the reaching the maximum response length. I know you haven't reached your maximum response length, Claude, so I could ask it to continue. And see how it goes. Oh, guys, it's translating these or transcribing these footnotes here, which I can barely read. This title does not occur in that manuscript at this point. Dude. Okay, I got the number wrong here. I can tell that that's not an 87 there. Yeah, it's not getting it quite right, but the fact that it's even close to right on this super blurry text is really impressive, if I might say so myself. So very cool. Now the next bit. Now can you translate that into English? And I'm gonna hopefully hang on. The Lives of Lancelot du Lac, Part 3. I don't think that's what I have here. Yes, History of the Holy Grail. One sec. I got it right here somewhere. Yep, right here. I'm a nerd, in case you didn't know. Okay, Lancelot, Part 3. Gotta look back at the text here. All right, well, maybe I've got the wrong part in the book, but I'm not seeing. It doesn't appear to match up, but I have a feeling. I've got the wrong part of the book. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've got the wrong part of the book, but still pretty cool. Dang, I wish I knew where, if I could find. Oh, this is volume 5. Hang on. Volume 5. There's like 10 volumes of this thing. For those who are curious, this is the most important work of Arthurian literature ever. Okay, so this is what it says. When he knew, says the story, that when Artrinus had parted from his companions, as you have heard, he wandered for 2 days without finding an adventure worth mentioning in a book. Here's what the official English translation is. Here the story says that after Agravain had left his companions, as you have heard, he wandered 2 days and more without finding adventure worthy of being recorded in writing. That's pretty darn close. Like, that is cool. That is cool. Okay, so I'm giving it mad props. That's about as difficult of a image reading task as I could personally come up with, and it, you know, it wasn't perfect, but it definitely did that job pretty well. So that's amazing. I'm gonna have to include that in my deep dive roundup of how well this thing does. Okay, so anybody else in the chat have a prompt or anything that you want us to run this to run through with this? There was a prompt that another person did that I'm going to do while you sound off in the comments if anybody has something that they want me to test. Where another person did a video, and they used a prompt. This one. I want my party to go down like a bomb. And I will say, give me 10 ideas of how I can do that. And obviously you could tell like the potential issue with this. If we had run it Claude 2.1 on this, it would instantly see the word bomb and be like, nope, this isn't okay. So let's see what it actually gives us. And it's giving me a whole bunch of ideas on how to make my party a blast. Sweet. So yeah, nothing wrong there. So it's definitely understanding the nuances of context a lot better. It knows that I'm not talking about literal bombs here. I'm just talking about the party, right? All right. So that's about all I can think of for the time being. I'm gonna have to come up with a list of like the same benchmarks that I want to test these models on, because there's always new models coming up, and I should really come up with a system for that. But I think we've done a lot of good things here to really test it to see if it does well, and really pleased with that. So unless there's anything else that people want me to try, I'm going to go ahead and sign off for now. Probably get to work putting together a more thorough introduction and outro of my thoughts on on Claude 3. But basically, bottom line is it's good. It is actually genuinely good, and I still struggle to get it to do more than about 1,500 words at a time, especially 1,500 good words. But if you're going in smaller steps and you're not trying to write the whole scene at once, then you should be absolutely fine. The quality of the prose is good. The adherence to the prompt and to the beats is very good, much better than even 2.0 was. And as you can see, as through our testing, we've managed to get a whole bunch of borderline things that past models wouldn't have done in terms of context, in terms of like violence and things like that. So it is not nearly as censored as previous models, especially 2.1 were. And so that's my those are my first look thoughts. And I hope that was useful for you, and I'll see you in the next video. There will be another one going out on Wednesday. It probably will not be about Claude, but I'll make sure that either Wednesday or Friday I'll have another video about Claude, kind of summing up everything we talked about here, because it's exciting, guys. And from what I've heard, March is going to be a crazy month. And we always know that competition brings out the best in these companies. And so the fact that we're getting Claude 3 now probably suggests that we're going to be getting GPT-5 or GPT 4.5 or whatever the next version of GPT is, probably soon in the near future. I'd say this month would be my bet. I'd be a bit surprised if we don't see an updated GPT model, because it's actually been almost exactly a year since GPT-4 came out, and we haven't seen, other than some improvements to GPT-4, like GPT-4 Turbo and stuff, we haven't seen any actual updated models from GPT. So I'm really curious to see if we get any more this month. I have no doubt that we probably will, and I think I'm gonna, if I am in a physical, if I have the physical ability to do so, I'm not traveling or something, I'm going to try and do a live stream like this anytime there's a new major model update, because I think this is fun and it gives us a chance to really just dive deep on these things together, and to do it more immediately. Whereas if I had to make a video, then we'd be waiting at least 24 hours. So thank you all for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.